Thank you for joining us on the Overcomers Overcoming podcast series, where we profile those who have overcome or those who are in the process of overcoming any life topic. We have three objectives with this podcast series. Our first objective is we want you to know that whatever you're experiencing in life, whatever you're encountering, you're not alone. We want to join you to let you know that we together can help you through whatever challenge you may have that at the time may seem too difficult to be able to overcome. Our second objective is to help you determine with a very confident resolve there are multiple solutions, multiple factors involved in any life encounter. It's a matter of thinking into and thinking through the life situation you are encountering to determine the various options, the various solutions that are available to you. Our third objective is to help you with critical thinking skills. If whatever you're experiencing is a result of a decision you made sometime in the past, such that if you had a life redo, you would make a different decision, we want to help you determine the objective facts and factors to evaluate to help you reach a more informed decision. I'm Ron Cooper, founder of the Cooper Culture. I'm with my wife and business partner, Marty. Together we are the Cooper Culture, and the Cooper Culture is sponsoring this podcast series. We have Donna Tashjian joining us again today for the 6th episode, where she's going to share with us her insights into the application of 2 Corinthians 4:18, where the Apostle Paul is addressing the Church of Corinth and helping his readers, as Donna is helping us, to help us learn better how we are spiritually and what the impact of the unseen is on our spiritual intelligence. Marty, what are some takes that our listeners can take away from this podcast?
The one thing I want to say about Donna and what she offered within this podcast, a course she teaches, and it's developing our spiritual intelligence. Within that course, there are 6 tools for spiritual growth, 12 spiritual laws. So if you as a listener are in a place where you don't want to be, Donna can teach and help you go from that spot to overcoming and being where you desire to be. Also, and really important, if you want a deeper walk with Christ, this course will teach you how to get there, and you can have that oneness not only you want, but Christ wants with you.
God created us as spiritual beings. Let's learn together just how that spirit plays in our life. It can be a positive or a negative influence. Donna, welcome back. I want to encourage our listeners to listen to each of the 5 podcasts. They build on each other, where, Donna, you're talking about what I believe the appropriate depth of your story. We're not dwelling on that, but I think our listeners can have a great appreciation of where you have been in life, with the emphasis of today and moving forward. You have overcome several topics of which our listeners can benefit. And today, Donna, I believe you're going to talk about 2 Corinthians 4:18 and the application of that scripture to your life. Welcome aboard.
Thank you. Thank you very much. This is a little different as far as some of the other things that we've shared, but it has a whole lot to do with how I have overcome and what is affecting and impacting hundreds and hundreds of people's lives today as I teach on this. So quite a few years back, when it begins to be over 15, we don't want to talk about how long ago it was, but this scripture resonates, when you read something and it just resonates with you and you're like, I know there's more than I'm seeing and I don't understand it, but teach me. And so this was one of those, and I'm just going to read it in case the listeners are in their car or riding or jogging and don't have their Bible. And it says, so we look not at the things that are seen, but at the things that are unseen. For the things that are visible are temporary, but the things which are invisible are everlasting and imperishable. And this is one of the chapters where Paul is encouraging us not to be discouraged, not to be disappointed, but to have a bigger vision, which is, I call it, when I teach this program, I call it developing our spiritual intelligence. We hear a lot in the world about emotional intelligence and how we need to develop our emotional intelligence. But I don't really hear a lot of people, and very many at all, that are teaching about spiritual intelligence. And what does it mean to realize I'm a spirit in a body having a human experience, and how to begin to live from the spirit as opposed to living by what my circumstances are going on. Does this make sense to you?
It does. And Donna, I'm just going to ask you, would hope be one of those unseen factors? There is hope that can help us overcome. Is that just one, perhaps many topics of the unseen that can help us to be a better person?
Hope is definitely a component of it. The way that our world system is set up, which is easy to default to, we could go back to the Garden of Eden when this all began to get in place, but it's our worth in the world system is around our performance. It's, remember when it was said, part of the curse was that you will toil and you will sweat and things will be hard, and it never feels like we've done enough or we have enough when we talk about the way the world system is. But when Jesus came, he gave us a new covenant. He said it was his yoke was easy. It's a done for you program, if you will. And we are creative like our Father. And it's believing, but it's not striving to be accepted or loved. And when we come from that place, life is easier, and learning from that. One of the biggest keys in the spiritual intelligence program I teach is there's 6 tools that we all have that we can use to begin to walk more by the Spirit instead of being ruled by my circumstances that I teach. And one of them is, I call it our imagination. Now, imagination is another word for faith. It's seeing things as we want them to see, as the promises we have in front of us, as the things we want, as opposed to what I might be seeing now. Remember when you were a kid, and you used to be, I don't know, maybe you were a fireman, or, I was a dancer, or something like that, and we used our imagination to actually feel it and experience it. You in that moment were a fireman, and nobody could tell you different, and you were putting out a big fire, and I was dancing, or a princess, or whatever it was, and in that moment we are that person. And that's really what faith and imagination is believing it so strongly that we begin to act that way today as if it is already done, and that changes everything. What's your thoughts about that?
No, that's great. And I'm going to ask you about the application of what you just said in the context of positive thinking. And I'm having a podcast with another person who has very recently had third surgery to remove a cavernous malformation, and he's numb on the left side and only has about 40% mobility on the right side. But in the context of believing, after listening to this gentleman, I said, boy, I tell you what, if attitude alone could heal you, there's no doubt you're going to be 100% healed. You're going to have full mobility. But Donna, is positive thinking a part of this? Is that a scripturally sound principle, or am I interjecting something that's not scripturally based?
To me, it is, because we are positionally all the things that Jesus paid for. But the thing that's standing in our way a lot of the times of believing those things is our mind. And so we were told to renew our mind, to not think like the world thinks in Romans 12. And
12:2, exactly.
Yes, so to think according to a higher plane, if you will. And so, yes, it's positive thinking is one way to look at it, but it's bigger than that, because I can think positively and worry the next. And and a lot of times our prayers are worry statements, not faith statements. God, please don't let, or please fix. And it isn't about changing my circumstances always. It is about changing me. It is, who do I want to be in the middle of these circumstances? And there's a lot of stuff that happened to us that we will maybe never have the explanation for. My life is one of them. And it's like, why did some of the things happen that happened? And there's a lot of, one of my favorite things, my clients, why is there bad stuff in the world? We live in a fallen world. And I don't believe, this is a kind of a bold, it is a bold statement. God isn't as interested in changing our circumstances as he is to the relationship we have with him and changing us. So what can I learn in the circumstances? A lot of times the circumstances will change through faith. And I'm a firm believer of miracles and things changing. But that's not my goal. My goal is me being bigger and better and having a deeper relationship with God and impacting my world. Did that answer your question?
It does. Let me ask you about Romans 12:2, and do not be conformed. A word that comes to mind is transformation. I think of transformation as my life is transformed from what I used to be, and I'll never return to that. Is that a part of the larger context in which you're addressing this?
Yeah, transformation is the word metamorphosis. It's like a butterfly, and the butterfly will never go be a caterpillar again. And I wish it was that easy for us. Because a lot of times we begin to be like a butterfly, and then something happens and our caterpillar part of us comes out again. So it is I don't know that I will ever arrive at my full butterfly, but I'm definitely on the journey to being more and more transformed and thinking like God thinks, the way he looks at the world. But we are bigger than our circumstances. We are bigger than our emotions. We are a spirit. And so learning, when we begin to just think that way, that it changes my perspective. I am creative like my Father, so I can begin to speak words that are in alignment with him and change things. I can then, my circumstances do begin to change, but it's coming from a place of who I am being, not necessarily I just made these many declarations or this many statements or positive thoughts. It's coming from a place of who I am becoming.
Let me ask you a little bit more of the unseen. We are working with and mentoring inmates. We're working with people who, and many people live in a life that is, I call it quiet desperation. There are a lot of people who wonder if things will ever get better. I am experiencing whatever, a load of stuff is just colloquially the way we express it sometimes. But is your theme, and is what Paul's addressing to the church of Corinth, to be able to put into action the unseen and increase our spiritual intelligence, is all of this, I guess I would ask you, Donna, in the context of we're fighting a spiritual warfare. In other words, they're the devil, other people, the media. There are all kinds of influences we have that will lead you to think you're living a life of despair, but that's not what Christ is saying. If for anybody who may be experiencing any form of despair, is that what you're saying, Donna? I have no intent to redirect you in any way, but I just know there's some people who are living this life of quiet despair.
Yes, there are definitely those people that are living that way. One of the other podcasts I shared about emotions and focus, And in those situations where people are living, they're into despair or hopelessness, my question, if I was speaking to that individual, would be, well, what are you focusing on? Are you focusing on how hard it is and how difficult it is? And I am not minimizing. There are people facing life-threatening illnesses and situations. But what are we focusing on? The problem or the answer? The problem or the solution? I lift my eyes to the hills for where my help comes from. That statement itself rises me above my current situation, my current desperation, my current pain point, and looks to, what am I going to learn from this? How can I grow in my relationship with God through this? How can I push into Him, not pull away from Him and blame whatever? Because all of us probably, I won't necessarily include you, but you'll probably agree with me. We've all been mad at God at some point. Something didn't go the way we thought we should. And learning to work through that and deepening my relationship with God. You've asked me over and over, where did I get my grit? And where did I get my focus? And it was this, as I continued to press toward God, not away from Him. I look for Him to be the solution, not the problem. And some things don't change and didn't turn out the way I thought it should. But He has never failed me. And as I began to focus on hope and answers and where I can grow, how can I make a difference? What can I learn from this? It brings me out of despair and into hope, into faith.
Some people, it seems, and I don't want to appear that I am knowledgeable of depression, but yet there are some people who are at least momentarily depressed. I'm going to use the term momentarily. I want to separate clinically depressed if there is that separation. But there's some people, it seems, who are just worn down with the negative, and they are allowing the negative to overcome them. And we need to surround ourselves with positive inputs by what we read, the people with whom we associate, and so forth. Am I on track with what you're teaching us?
Yes. It has been proven that our thoughts, the thoughts you think, actually create chemical reactions in our body. If I think fear thoughts, my body releases adrenaline and et cetera. There's a lot of other hormones and chemicals that are released in our body when we think fear thoughts, and we stay on fear thoughts. It begins to impact all of our systems, down to our blood chemistry. And if I think thoughts of hope and faith, it changes also my blood chemistry in a way. So when we talk about depression, it's where the more and more we focus on what we're afraid of and what we're fear will happen or what's happened to us in the past, the more depressed we will be. One of my minister mentors says everybody is 15 minutes away from depression, or could be, depending upon what they're going to focus on, because we've all got stuff in our life that's not going the way we want it to, every one of us. And so if we want to focus on what's going wrong, we can be very down very quickly. I know that there are people who need some serious assistance in this, and I am simplifying this, but the facts still remain. My thoughts create the chemicals that work in my body, and therefore my emotions follow.
And that's great, Donna. Let me ask you about a call to action, and for anyone, any skilled medical people who are listening, I don't want to marginalize any person's background in that, but I do want to emphasize what I believe to be the positive benefits of positive thinking. I am not an advocate of whatever you can believe you can achieve. In other words, if I truly think I can be a giraffe, I can't imagine that ever happening. But for anything that is realistic, can I change my negative thinking to positive thinking, that kind of thing? I do believe it's a matter of being very intentional. I think it is a matter of, in the context of intentionality, to maybe change my reading habits, maybe change what I watch on TV, maybe, and we've dealt with many people that we've helped them change the level of friendship they have. You had mentioned in one of our podcasts, we are the average of the 5 people with whom we most closely associate. And in that context, we need to associate ourselves with positive thinking people. So, Donna, for those people who are saying, yes, I can identify with what you're saying, and if it's not a life of quiet desperation, it's something to the effect, I do need to change from being the negative to the positive, can you give us a call to action? Where do we start?
I definitely can. One of the things is in my spiritual intelligence workshop that I teach is I provide 6 spiritual gifts that we have to be able to utilize and walk in the Spirit more, as well as also 12 spiritual laws that are working, whether we are working them in our favor or not, they are operational. So if the person listening who wants to learn more, who wants to take their life to learn how to live from the unseen, I would suggest that you give me a call and schedule a consultation. You can do it on my website as well, and learn how to see if this is a good fit for you so that you can rise above your circumstances and be who God actually created us to be, so that everything that Jesus paid for, we can begin to really walk in.
Again, I'm going to suppose there's no quick fix from turning from a negative life of desperation, however we may characterize that. There's not a quick fix. It just takes, what's the right word, a journey. You've used that term before. It's a journey, and it's going to take more than one conversation. It's going to take more than one day. Would I be correct in that?
It does take more than one day. Have a conversation with me, you would be beginning a new journey. I guarantee that. But learning that it's easier than you think. When we work it God's way, it's simple and it's easy. But it isn't overnight. You're right. It isn't a magic pill. It isn't a miracle as far as, magic. I mean, it isn't magic. But when we work things God's ways, life is easier. So schedule a consultation. It's complimentary. There's no, what do you got to lose? Learn what you can learn so that you can be who God created you to be.
Thank you, Donna. The reason I'm mentioning quick fix, there are a lot of people who say, you can capture my attention for the proverbial 17 seconds, but you got to work hard to do longer than that. And some of these people think that, man, if there's not a quick fix to it, I'm out of here and I'm going someplace else. But intentionality and some of the things that, and I know some of us have been where we are, the negative thinking, maybe for decades, and it's like turning around a big ship. It's not going to happen real fast. But if we're intentional, we can at least get the journey started. Yeah. And if I've characterized anything wrong, Donna, just say so.
And having fun along the way.
Great. Yeah. Well, I like that. And, yes, if we can make this journey fun and have some laughter along the way, it just makes the ride, the journey, even better.
Absolutely.
Donna, thank you for the very positive insights that you have. And, yes, you've been on a journey, and I suspect your journey will always continue. It's, as Marty and I are on a similar journey, there is no destination. We have waypoints, but we don't have a destination such that we'll stop. This journey continues, and we want to pass forward our learning experience, and that's what I perceive you to be.
Yes, thank you very much for letting me share.
Thank you, Donna. Christ teaches us in 1 Peter 5:8 to be sober and watch, for your adversary the devil is a roaring lion. He walks about seeking whom he may devour. What that's saying is we have vulnerabilities. Those vulnerabilities frequently are hidden within us. We frequently do not want to be vulnerable enough to explain what it is that makes us vulnerable to outside influences. Christ says we are spiritual beings. Frequently, we are influenced more by spiritual beings, and I am referring to what we read, what we hear on media, what people say to us. We're affected in some ways, a very negative way, by those things. We take those in, we allow those thoughts to manifest themselves into actions, and those actions frequently result in something negative. It requires some very conscious thought. It requires a very introspective look. It requires time out to analyze just who we are, where we are, what we're doing, our habits, to understand fully what the influences are on our life. We can be very flippant and say we're too busy. Sometimes we don't even know where to start. But Donna has a course where she will offer, as Marty and I also will offer you in coaching, we will each offer you a very complimentary session where we can explain how we might be able to help you overcome any negative thoughts that are influencing you through your spiritual being and are having an adverse impact on you. As we mentioned in the podcast, there are some people who are living lives of quiet desperation. Quiet because I don't trust anybody to fully understand what I'm going through. Quiet because maybe I don't trust people to tell them that I don't know if they'll use that against me. So what happens is those influences tend to become dominant in our lives. Donna spoke of the word hook in an earlier podcast, where these type influences, the spiritual negativity, are like a hook on us and can be very negative. But Christ says he wants us to have the mind of Christ, and the mind of Christ is one who can think through. We can be positive, but it requires a very intentional effort to do that, to study Scripture, to want to have a oneness with Christ, as Marty said in the intro. And it requires us, as a point of intentionality, to be very deliberate, to take that introspective look and to want to change, take a different direction, and that's the aspect of transformation. Coaching can be one aspect of helping us over any adverse influences, that hook that may be in our life that tends to dominate from a negative perspective. Call us at 410-586-1875 or send an email to ron@thecooperculture.com or Marty, M-A-R-T-Y, @thecooperculture.com, and let us know how we might be able to help you. We and Donna, through her website that's listed in the description to this podcast, will offer you a complimentary session to help us determine if we are the right persons to help you through whatever it is that is affecting your life, so that we can help you become more positive, more inspirational to others, have a more positive outlook on life, and we don't want to minimize or marginalize any of the challenges you may be experiencing, but we do want to help you to develop a very positive thought that, having worked together, knowing that you're not alone on this, that together we can overcome virtually any challenge in your life with the right people, the right influences, and the right methods to go about anything that may be troubling you, to help you live the life that God has designed you to be, to operate and perform at the full potential. Let's work together. Let's share together. Let us know some of the things that are doing well for you or things that are not doing well, so that we can work with and share with others. We look forward to interacting with you and engaging.